A message this morning is a little bit difficult to deliver because of the news we just heard. I'd actually sensed before the event, the tragic event, I had sensed to bring this message to us. So it's a little bit closer to home. The title of my message this morning is Live Wisely, or Living Wisely. In 2005, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Computers, a genius innovator, entrepreneur, a leading figure in both the computer and entertainment industries, delivered an inspirational commencement speech to a bunch of graduates at Stanford University. If you can get a hold of it, read it. It's got a lot of good insights. He shared 3 stories from his life, one of which was about his close shave with death when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2000, not before this message that he delivered to the graduates. He recovered from that initially after getting treatment for it. His life was extended by 6 years. In 2011, however, he finally succumbed to cancer. And here's part of what he said. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me. And since then, for the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I do what I want to do, what I'm about to do today? It's a good question. If today were the last day of your life, would you do what you're about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for many days in a row, I know I need to change something. If you live each day as if it were your last, someday you'll most certainly be right. And he's right in saying that we're all going to die. Death is inescapable. I mean, that's hardly groundbreaking truth, but one, however, that we avoid like a plague because of its harsh, brutal, and painful reality. Even for Christians. He continues, no one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there if we can avoid it. And yet death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It is life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it is true. It is quite true. Certainly our lives can be improved. Certainly our lives can be lengthened through medical research and education aimed at improving our lives and preventing diseases that kill and destroy. Bill Gates is at the forefront of some of these wonderful initiatives through his influence and generous giving. A polio outbreak in the Horn of Africa was controlled in under 4 months. There's not been a case of polio reported in India for nearly 3 years now. He reports that child mortality has halved between 1990 and 2012, and so has the rate of poverty. But still, despite all these wonderful news, an inescapable reality exists and confronts us, and that is sooner or later, we're all going to die. King David prayed in Psalms 39, verse 4, "Show me, O Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting is my life." Have you ever prayed this prayer? I think it's a good prayer to pray. Show me, O Lord, how fleeting my life is. Moses wrote in Psalms 90, verse 10, "The length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have the strength. They quickly pass, and we fly away. King David, again, musing about life, wrote, "Man is like breath. His days are like a fleeting shadow." Brothers and sisters, I wonder if we realize how fragile and how vulnerable we truly are. I mean, when you are at the age of Joan and Betty, you know, death is something that, yeah, it's around the corner. I accept that. I'm not too far away from it. But when you're as young as I am, you think of yourself as invincible, you know what I mean? And the younger you are, you go, yeah, I've got many years ahead of me. Don't we say that to young people? You've got the future right in front of you. You've got so many years ahead of you. Look forward to it. Plan for it. We say to ourselves, don't we? Oh, you know, next year I'll do this. I'll keep working hard to provide for my children. I can't allow myself any enjoyment and any rest. I've got to work hard to provide. And yet the Bible tells us that such presumption about our invincibility is arrogance. The thing that we've got a guarantee to live the next day. There's no such guarantee that exists. I have a chiropractor friend that I see regularly. During my recent visit, we can go to the next slide, I asked him about his Christmas plans, what he was planning to do. In the course of our conversation, he reminded me that this year is the 7th anniversary. On December the 12th, 2006, two of his boys, Daniel and Toby, aged 12 and 17 respectively, died in a car accident. Just like that. I mean, the death of one child is hard to bear, is a burden too big for anyone to carry. And he's had to carry the burden of losing two boys. Just in one quick moment, he lost two boys. One was seriously injured, but later recovered. Daniel was the driver. There were no other vehicles involved. He'd just gotten his P's. Adam did everything that a responsible father would do to prepare him when he got his driver's license. He even took Daniel to the Brisbane Magistrate Court to watch the tide of traffic-related misery that ebbed and flowed through the chambers. He was also shown graphic DVD crash footage to ram home the road safety message. On December the 12th, Daniel took his siblings to do some Christmas shopping, last-minute Christmas shopping. And the shopping center in Indooroopilly was only 10 minutes away, max. I actually drove on that road. I actually went to the site where the crash took place. It's a narrow road, 2 lanes, but not dangerous. On the way back, the vehicle they traveled in smashed into a power pole. Police believe that speed was involved. Adam's life and his wife's life turned upside down. Not only is death unavoidable, but death comes unexpectedly. Death comes suddenly. We don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know where we're going to die. Although death is a certainty, we cannot choose the time, the place, and means of our death, except in the cases of suicides. We must pray like David. Show me, O Lord, my life's end, and how fleeting my life is. We do not have a guarantee of even one more day to live. The Bible tells us not to count on tomorrow because tomorrow may never come for you or for me. In James chapter 4, verses 13 and 14. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there, buy and sell and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. Do you? You make plans. There's nothing wrong with planning. James is not speaking out against planning. He's just simply making the observation that tomorrow may never come for any of us. There's no guarantee of that. Do you think Tom and Judy had any inkling that when they went up to the Sunshine Coast to holiday, that would be the last time they'd see of Connor? Do you think that David and Katie had any inkling that would be the last family holiday that they would have, complete as a family? You know what I mean? We have no certainty that tomorrow will come. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. So what do we do? What do we do? We can take on board Steve Jobs' advice, and his advice is this: we can make the reality of death work in our favor. We can make the reality of death work in our favor. Jobs continues with his speech. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death. Isn't that right? If you know you're going to die tomorrow, are you really going to care about what people will think of you? There's a certain recklessness about, well, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to die tomorrow. What is the point of worrying about what people will think of me? I'm just going to go all out and celebrate life the way life is meant to be celebrated. Now that's what Steve is saying here. These things fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There's no reason not to follow your heart. Your time is limited. So don't waste it living someone else's life. That's good advice. Are you living someone else's dream, someone else's life? Don't be tried by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions draw out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. If I can summarize Job in one sentence, but with a Christian perspective, it'd be this. Because life on earth, can we move to the next slide? Because life on earth is limited and therefore valuable, live it wisely for God's glory by making the most of every opportunity He gives you. Because life on earth is limited and therefore valuable, live it wisely. Live it wisely for God's glory by making the most of every opportunity He gives to you. Here's what we read in Ephesians 5, verses 15 to 20. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. In the context there, that's what he was talking about. Because the days are evil, make full use of your time. But you can easily, the principle, while the context is different in terms of what I'm sharing here this morning, the principle is the same. Because life is short. Because we are fragile. Because we don't know what tomorrow brings. Make the most of every opportunity that you have today. If you can say to someone, I love you today, say it today. If you can bless someone today, say it today. If you can take them out for lunch today, take them out for lunch today, because tomorrow may never come. If you need to say, I'm sorry. if you need to get your affairs put right with somebody, do it today, because tomorrow may not come. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. The Lord's will is not a mystery. It's not shrouded in darkness. He explains what the Lord's will is. Don't get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery, that is excessive self-seeking, narcissistic pleasures. Instead, be filled with the Spirit. Speak to one another with psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. Sing and make music in your heart to the Lord. That is the Lord's will. Always giving thanks to God the Father for everything. That's what we did this morning. We made time, we made space to acknowledge the person of God, what He means to us, and His blessings. All of us have been given one life to live for His glory. All of us have been and will be given many opportunities to make our lives count for His glory. There are no pause, there are no rewind, and there are no forward buttons. Don't we wish we could pause? Put our lives in a pause moment, or rewind and make right what we've done in the past, change our past. You can't live wisely if you spend valuable time and energy being fixated on your past mistakes, or being fixated about making mistakes in life. When you do, you will miss out on the opportunities that God sends your way. Don't quit. Don't stop trying. Don't stop living because you failed in the past or because you have been failed. Don't live to die. I wonder how many of us just simply live to die, counting the days. What a sad way to approach life. Learn from your failures. Learn from the failures of others. But the main thing is, don't quit. Proverbs 24, verse 16 says, the righteous may fall 7 times, but still get up. In Philippians 4, 12, 13, Paul says, I know what it is to be poor. I know what it is to have plenty. And I have lived under all kinds of conditions. I know what it means to be full. I know what it means to be hungry, to have too much or too little. Whatever the conditions I find myself under, I turn to Christ, for He gives me strength to face anything that life throws at me. See, He's not a quitter. And if you read his autobiography, he went through a lot. A huge amount. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, said this, far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat. It is hard to fail, but he reckons it is far worse never to have tried to succeed at anything. And lastly, he says this, the only man who never makes mistakes is the man who never does anything. How true. If you want to avoid mistakes, avoid living altogether. Avoid doing anything. You won't make any mistakes in life. Making the most of every opportunity. A young soldier and his commanding officer, they went on a train together. The only available seats were across from an attractive young woman who was traveling with her grandmother. And they engaged in pleasant conversation. And through time, this young soldier and the young lass had eyes only for each other. Something was happening between the two. The attraction was quick and mutual. Suddenly, the train went into a tunnel, and the carriage became pitch dark. Immediately, two sounds were heard: the smack of a kiss and the whack of a slap across the face. The grandmother thought, I can't believe he kissed my granddaughter, but I'm glad she gave him the slap he deserved. The commanding officer thought, I don't blame the boy for kissing the girl, but it's a shame she missed his face and hit me instead. The young girl thought, I'm glad he kissed me, but I wish my grandmother hadn't slapped him for doing it. And as the train broke into sunlight, the soldier could not wipe the smile and the grin off his face. He had just seized the opportunity to kiss a pretty girl and slap his commanding officer, and he had gotten away with both. He seized the day. He seized the opportunity. Don't try this at home. Don't try this in the trains. Jobs is right. Life is far too short, far too fragile, far too precious, far too valuable to be throwing it away by living someone else's life, by allowing your life to be dictated by your past, by the ghost of the past, by unresolved conflicts that you may have with your past, or by not living at all. Don't just live to die. But unlike Jobs, I'd say, don't follow your heart. Because in Jeremiah 17, we're told that our heart is deceitful above all else and beyond cure. And this is where I disagree with Jobs. But I say, follow Jesus. Follow the Lord with all of your heart. Determined to do what pleases Him. Determined to find what pleases Jesus and go and do it. And there will be no regret. And as I said earlier, God's will is not a mystery. It does not rely on guesswork. God's will is made abundantly clear in the reading that we just did from Ephesians 5. And there are times when we need specific direction, specific revelation, and that will come when we seek out advice from others. But by and large, God's will is made clear to us. We just need to act on it. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain, Paul says. However, Jesus made abundantly clear in the Gospels that following Him requires an all-out approach, an all-out commitment, not a half-hearted approach and a half-hearted commitment. There's no holding back. There's no turning back. He says, take up your cross. If you want to be my disciple, take up your cross and follow me. A chicken and a pig came upon a church building and read the advertisement on the billboard out front, which read, "Help us feed the poor." Immediately, the chicken suggested that they help feed the poor with bacon and eggs. The pig thought for a moment and said, "There's one thing wrong with your suggestion, chicken. There's one thing wrong with feeding bacon and eggs to the poor. For you, chicken, it only requires a contribution. For me, it requires total commitment." God is not asking us to make a contribution to His kingdom, to His cause. God is not asking us to make a contribution to make the world a better place. God is asking you and I to make a total commitment to His cause, to His purpose, for your life and mine. The issue isn't whether we're going to die or how we're going to die, but rather whether we're going to live for God and how we're going to live for Him. If today were the last day of your life, If today was the last day of your loved one's life, I'm looking at Simon and Kimberly, what would you do? If today was the last day of your life, if today was the last day of your loved one's life, Will is at the back, he's got 3 young kids. Would you want to do what you're about to do today? If your answer is a consistent no, then as Jobs learned, something perhaps needs to change. Make time to talk to God. Make time to have a conversation with Him about how He wants you to approach 2014. Can I urge you to go back and think about this question? If today were the last day of your life, would you do what you're about to do today? If next year were the last year of your life, would you change your plans for next year? Would you go about doing what you had planned for next year? The strength, the determination, the power to follow the Lord does not come from us, but comes by turning to God, turning to Him, who's the source of our faith. He's the starter and perfecter of our faith. So I'd like us to close with 2 songs. The first song is about the Holy Spirit, asking the Holy Spirit to energize us, to empower us, a commitment to surrender our lives, to have God have His way with us. And then I'm going to have a time of congregational prayer. The prayer will be up. And then we'll finish with a more upbeat song, a new song we sing as we move into the new year. Okay?